Hey y'all, so this is how you're gonna make a door that opens upon an interaction. So as you can see, when I walk up to it, my billboard comes up, shows me whether the door is locked or unlocked. I saw that it's locked, so I'm gonna go out and grab my key. And once I have my key, I can come back to the door, walk up to it, I see the unlocked icon, and press E to open the door. Also, I can go ahead and close the door. If I press E again, the door will close. So let's talk about how you actually do that. So now we're going to create our door that opens using our interactive blueprint. As a note, you should have already completed the light switch, and in that you should have created a simple interaction by creating a BPI, blueprint interface, called Simple Interact, and a function called Interact with World Object. You will be utilizing this to open your door and interact with it. Okay, so of course, first you're going to need to get a static mesh for your door and create a blueprint. I, in mine, use the static mesh that comes in with your starter content. The reason that I use that static mesh is because when I open this door by rotating it, you'll notice that it opens from the hinge, and that's crucial to getting a nice animation here. The problem with most of the doors from Sketchfab, which here I've actually got one of the doors from Sketchfab, is that when I try to open it using the rotation, a lot of those doors have a pivot point in the center of the object, which is typical of most items that you'll download from online. However, in the case of the door, it's problematic because when we rotate it, it rotates from the center, which doesn't look it just doesn't look right to what doors do in real life. So that can be very frustrating. However, I will not take off points for that if you do choose to use a door from Sketchfab that opens in this way. If you would like to use the simple door that comes with the starter content, all you have to do is go here to the static mesh option and search for SM_door. It will come with a door as well as a door frame. Okay, so just to go over how you would create this blueprint, of course, I'm just going to recreate this live for you all. Of course, I will go into the folder MyBP. I can go to the Add button and add a new blueprint class of the actor type. And I will call this BP_door. Now, I'm going to recreate a door even though I've already made one. I will just make this a different color, I guess. So I'm going to open up my blueprint by double clicking on it. And then I'm just going to start adding my meshes and collisions and billboard to my blueprint. You'll notice that my view doesn't have the details panel right now, so what I'm going to do is just reset the window. Yours may look fine, but I just like to keep it in the current layout that most of us have, just so it's less confusing. If you see this, all you have to do is click on Open Full Blueprint Editor. Sometimes it will just open the simple blueprint editor. So again, we're going to go to the viewport, and we're going to start adding items. So if I'm creating a door, it's important that I pay attention to the hierarchy of components in my components tree. And the reason for that is there's actually a system that basically has a parented object to what is called the default scene root. The default scene root is basically this thing. It's an invisible point from which everything emanates. I'm going to first add my door frame. And of course I have to add a static mesh. And I'm going to call this frame. Whenever I'm coding the rotation of the door to open it, I'm not going to click on this frame because I don't want the frame to move with it. I want the frame to stay still. And that is why I'm going to basically put this first, because I'll show you something in a second why that is. Let me just add the door as well, just so we can kind of demonstrate this. I'm going to rename this door and then go here and find my door. And I'm also going to just change the color real quick, just so it's easier for y'all. I'll just pause it here while I do that. Okay, so I just changed the color of my door just for this example. Okay, so the reason why I need my frames to be first in the hierarchy is because basically there's this thing called parenting. So whatever is top on the hierarchy, if I move it, it's going to move what's beneath it along as well. So here if I click on the frame and I rotate the frame, notice that everything rotates. That's because my door is underneath this. I don't want my door to be in the top of the hierarchy, because if the door is in the top of the hierarchy, what's going to happen is that when I rotate this thing, when I rotate my door, it's going to also rotate, when I rotate my door, it's going to also rotate the frame with it, and that's not elegant. So we want to put the frame first, attach that to the default scene root, and then we can attach the door underneath, okay? Of course, once you attach the door, you want to kind of position it so that it's right in the center and the door is in the closed position. Now I think it's kind of ugly to have this thing be whatever, that color. But whatever, I'm not gonna worry about that. I think it's just ugly, but whatever. So I have my red door now. I have my frame, my door is underneath it. Now I also need to add, of course, a collision. And remember, this collision is going to control basically how close you have to be to interact with it. And so what I'm going to do is make a box collision and then just size it up so that it's about the same size as my door. I'm going to call this my collision. And then I just need to, of course, size it up. That's a little too much. And I want it to be like a bit bigger than the door, not too much, but I don't want it to be that you have to get too close for the billboard to pop up. And as you know, the billboard is just basically the thing where it shows you can interact with it. And I gave y'all some assets to download for this. They're actually in your announcements. So if you go to the announcements from the other day, warm up 10:11, you're gonna download the lock icon and the unlock icon, okay, and put them into your content drawer. These are called sprites. They're just simple images. So I have a folder called My Sprites, and I just put those up in there. And the lock icon and the unlock icon, they come in as textures, but we don't really use them the same way as materials. They're used for a different purpose. Okay, so what I'm going to do is then add my billboard. And just like a billboard advertises things in our world, a billboard will just advertise like what's going on in our level for our players. It does pop up for them when we choose it to. And for this, I wanted to position it so that it's outside of the door. If I'm coming to like basically walk up to the door, my player should see this pop up, because this is gonna show, this is what shows my player that they can interact with this door, and actually it's gonna actually show them whether the door is locked or unlocked at the time. So I know it has this like weird little icon. I'm not sure the history of why it's a dinosaur, but it just is. They use that for everything. So I'm just gonna have this kind of floating out here. Okay, so if I have my frame, my door, my collision, my billboard, I am good to go as far as compiling my blueprint. So once I compile and save, what I'm gonna do is just make sure that the size and everything looks decent in my level. So I'm actually gonna go in and put this door somewhere. Of course, you're actually gonna put it in your house itself, and I'm gonna check if I can just put this like right here maybe, even though, you know, you can clearly get through this wall. My house is really bad. I hope your house looks better than mine, because I didn't really work on it as much as I gave y'all the time to, so your house should look better. And wow, okay, so this actually looks like pretty good size wise. Just a little bit small, and honestly at this point it's close enough. I would prefer to just edit this in my level rather than editing the blueprint, because that can be a little frustrating. So I'm just gonna kind of position this door in my level. If yours doesn't look quite right, that's understandable. You just need to, if it's way too big or too small, size it up in the viewport of your blueprint editor. But if it's like this and it's not really, it's like a pretty decent fit, then you can just kind of position it in here. And in fact, I'm gonna actually make my wall a little bigger and put it down in here so it doesn't have that threshold, which is kind of annoying. And I'm gonna stick that right there, and then just kind of position my door so it's fitting in this frame of my wall. And this may take you longer than it takes me. That's totally fine. You can pause the video and just get it right. I also like to walk up to it to make sure it looks good. I can right click and say play from here to get right up in there. It's kind of a narrow door, but as you can see it looks pretty good, and I can't get through it because I actually fixed the collision of this thing. Now there is a gap up there actually, so I'm gonna fix that real quick. But a word on the collision, your door, if you get it from the starter content, it doesn't automatically have a collision. So what you're gonna have to do to make sure it's a collision, it has a collision, and you can't just simply walk through this thing, you're gonna have to open up the actual static mesh itself and add a simple box collision. So to do that, I'll show you. I'm gonna go into my content drawer. I'm gonna search for the actual item, the actual static mesh of my door, which is called SM door. I'm gonna open that thing up, and I need to, originally this thing from the starter content doesn't have a collision, so what I'm gonna do is go up here to collision. Yours is gonna have no collision. And if it has no collision, obviously what's gonna happen is that you're gonna be able to walk right through it, which isn't what you want. I'm kind of stuck in there. I don't know why I'm stuck in here. It's kind of weird. It could be because of my wall has a weird collision, I'm not sure. But I don't want to be able to walk through it, so what I'm going to do is, again, go in here, go to collision, and I'm going to just say, because it's just a simple shape, I'm going to say add a box simplified collision, and then you can see it has a collision where you can't just walk through it. And that's fine. That's pretty much fine. So I'm just going to save that now. And now yours also will have a collision if you followed that. I'm going to apply this. And okay, so now my door is correctly sized. Now we need to get into the coding. So obviously that's like the main part of this that's going to take you the most time and be the most difficult. So just buckle in. If you pay attention, it won't be too bad. Okay, so obviously I'm going to open back up my door BP, and I have one regular one and one special one. So this is like my red one is the one I'm doing for y'all, because I don't want to mess up the one I already did. And I have all these items. I'm good. I'm gonna go over to my event graph. Cool. So honestly, the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a variable to track whether or not the door is locked or unlocked. Okay, so initially my door should be locked, and I'm gonna just create a variable. If it's a yes or no, true or false variable, it should be, as you know, a boolean. So I'm gonna create a new boolean, and this will be called is door locked. Okay, I need to make this public by clicking on the eyeball right here and opening that up. And is door locked, logically, right, we're gonna go and make sure that the default value for is door locked is set to true, because we want our door to be locked when it spawns up. And now is door locked is set to true. Of course, I have to compile and save this before I get the default value over here in my details panel. Cool, so we're also gonna make a variable later on called hasKey, but let's not worry about that right now. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is basically create the system by which my billboard pops up. And to do that, I'm going to use the collision to basically make it so that whenever I walk up to the door and it notes that the character has walked up to the door, it's gonna pop up the billboard, which is like showing us whether the door is unlocked or locked. So what I'm gonna do is, clicking on the collision, I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna search for add on component begin overlap. It's under this add event collision, or I could just search on component begin overlap, and in parentheses it should have collision or whatever you called your collision, because we're referencing the collision for the overlap. Okay, after that I have to always give it a target for what is overlapping. And the more you do this, the more you're going to know. 90% of the time, I'm going to put right after on component begin overlap, I'm going to put cast to third BP third person character. Make sure it's third person character, not the class, game mode, or any of that. It has to be BP third person character, which you know is like my player's blueprint. And you're going to always have to put other actor up to object. If you don't, you won't be able to compile and save. I compile and save after just about everything I do. Okay, cool. So now when somebody walks up to this, we're going to do whatever is next. And what we want to do is first check if the door is locked. Okay? Because clearly it's going to be a different icon whether or not it's locked or unlocked. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to drag out a node, and then I'm going to look for what's called a branch. Branches are really cool. They're a part of the typical C++ and other codes logic. Basically what they do is they check a certain variable. Actually it has to be a boolean. So they're going to check a boolean variable and basically set a different result based on whether that condition is set to true or false. So I'm going to have to get a reference to this variable now by dragging in a reference. I'm going to get it. It's called get is door locked. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Getting it is basically just checking this thing, and I'm just going to connect the red to the red. Alright, so now what's going on is I'm basically checking whether the door is locked before I do the following things. Okay. So if it's true that the door is locked, we're going to do one thing. If it's false that the door is locked, we're going to do another thing. And let me just check my code real quick to see what we're gonna do there. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, actually, I lied. We're gonna actually save this thing for later. So we're not gonna check if the door is locked yet. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna drag out something here, and this is where we're gonna set, this is where we're gonna actually set the sprite. So we're gonna figure out whether the door is unlocked or locked in a different way. So what we're gonna do is set sprite of the billboard, and it should be only the billboard that's being referenced. If it's in parentheses, it's gonna be referenced. Okay, so we're setting the sprite of the billboard. We're gonna go into here, and under new sprite, we're gonna make what's called a select. This is basically gonna give us different options based on a Boolean readout. So we're gonna connect this here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to give it the first option if the Boolean is true, and the second option is the Boolean is false. The Boolean we're referencing here is door locked, so we're going to get a reference to is door locked and connect that here to the index. Okay, so basically what's happening here is it's going to set our little icon to either the locked or unlocked based on whether the door is locked. So if door locked is basically true, first, we're going to do true because by default the door should be locked. So we're going to set is door get is door locked. If it's true, we want to get the lock icon to show that the door is locked. If it's false and door is unlocked, we're going to get the unlock icon. Cool, cool, cool. So again, this is select, false will be unlocked, true will be locked. We're checking this Boolean is door locked, which should be by default set to true. This will then be the new sprite that's set of our billboard. Finally, we need to make sure that this is set to visible. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set visibility of my billboard, and the new visibility should be set to true. Alright, sick. So what's going to happen is our billboard should pop up only when we walk into the collision. So make sure it's not by default up because that's not as cute. We're going to go in here into billboard, and excuse me, we're going to set visibility here to false, so that by default it's not showing, but when I walk up to it, it will show. So we're going to compile and save, and now let's check it out. I'm going to play, and let me find this door. So I'm going to walk around in my level. Let's see where it is. That's my key for my other door. I'm going to ignore that for the time being and just find my house with the door. I actually don't know where it is in terms of where my level's at, so I might have to walk around a little bit. And it's frozen. Cool. I hate that. Alright, time to find my door. And I'm gonna guess... Oh, it was right behind me. Jeez Louise. Freaking annoying. Alright, so I'm gonna cut all that out, but... God damn. Okay, who's freezing my computer? Alright, so where's my door? There it is. Why is it not coming up? So for some reason mine isn't popping up. And I'm gonna have to figure out why. I think the collision isn't far enough. Okay, something very important that I forgot to tell y'all. When you create your billboard, when you create your billboard, yeah, go to your billboard. Make sure that when you go over to the details panel, we need to uncheck hidden in game, because if the hidden is game is checked for our billboard, y'all not gonna see this billboard. So we're gonna go back, and now my billboard should come up. So you might have had that problem as well. It's really annoying. But when I walk up, oh my god. Okay, so clearly my billboard is way too big. It's coming up though when I walk up to it, which is great. But it's not going away. So we're gonna fix the fact that it doesn't go away, and also fix the enormous size. So I'm gonna go back into my blueprint, and I'm gonna go to this billboard, and I'm going to just size it down, maybe to like point, I don't know, I'm gonna try point, keeping it proportional, I'm gonna try 0.3, and let's check that out. And I mean, yours will probably be the same as mine since I gave you the asset, so if this looks good, you can just size it to 0.3. Dang, it's still too big. In my opinion, I think that's too big. I'm gonna try setting the value of the billboard scale to 0.1. 0.1. So yeah, I made a really high quality image for you, but clearly it wasn't needed to be that high quality. And let's see. Oh, perfect. So yeah, go ahead and make the scale for your billboard 0.1. Make sure it's hidden in game is unchecked. So it's coming up, right? That's pretty cool. And it should be locked. We haven't figured out a way to unlock our door yet, so it should just be locked right now. And I'm gonna go back to my blueprint, and I'm gonna show y'all how to make it go away. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go back into my event graph. Now we're gonna set up a system to make our billboard disappear once I walk away from it, because it's just nicer that way. What I'm gonna do is basically the same thing as I just did here. So I can literally copy paste this whole thing. No, let's just do it again just to learn. Okay, just kidding. We're not gonna copy paste anything. We're gonna just repeat, okay? So this time, again, I'm gonna select my collision, get a reference to that box collision. I'm gonna pull up on component end overlap. So now instead of on component begin overlap, I'm gonna pull out an end overlap, alright? And what that does is basically when I walk away from the collision, it will do whatever I put in here. So now basically I'm not going to change the blueprint. I do need to get a cast to BP third person character. So I'm going to pull that out. Cast to BP third person character. Again, it's 90% of the time when I do one of these on component begin overlap or end, I'm going to get the cast to BP third person character. Always connect other actor to object. You gotta do that or you won't be able to compile. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set the visibility of the billboard to invisible. Very easy. Gonna pull a string out from this. Put set visibility of my billboard. And now instead of the new visibility being checked true, it's going to be checked to false. So let's just test that. Now when I walk away, that little thing should pop away. We'll keep it cute in that way. And boom. And now when I walk away, it's gone. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So if you have to this point, you are finished with part 1. I'll come out with part 2 tomorrow.